Welcome back to Exploring Whiskeys. I'm Eric.
I'm Kevin. Today we are going to be doing a rye, and this is kind of a special release of a rye. This is a WhistlePig. This is the 12-year-old World Cask Finished rye. So they at least, I mean, they're very specific that it's cask finished. So it can't be just a rye, because a rye, I think, has a lot of the same rules as bourbons, 51% rye and only new oak, I think. But this is finished.
This one's 95.5. It
is 95.5. It is a rye. lot of rye.
Kevin's super excited to drink this one.
I'm so excited to drink this one. Before we get into all the back history here, if you could, just hit the like button. We'd really appreciate that. So, WhistlePig has not been around forever, too long, but they really, truly started in 2010. A New York financier type dude ended up buying some farm in Vermont in 2007, didn't know what to do with it, decided he wanted to do whiskey. 2010, he pulls in Dave Pickerel. We've talked about Dave Pickerel before. He used to work at Maker's Mark. He used to work at MGP.
But I feel like he's kind of known for like the godfather of rye.
He's a rye. He is the rye dude. But he also did Blackened, which I don't think was a rye.
Which I feel, now I think about it, when we did the Old Whiskey Club, we got to do that private tasting with New Riff.
Okay.
And they rolled out their single barrel. They actually consulted with Pickerel on that. I'm almost positive. Like
was it the Blum brothers, the ones that could only they could only hang out if they were drinking whiskey? That Blum brothers?
Yep.
They consulted Pickerel as well. So Pickerel's he was the man. He did pass away. So not the man necessarily anymore to go to for things, but
he passed along his knowledge.
He passed along a lot of knowledge to a lot of people and was really he was always out there. So what they ended up doing when they launched WhistlePig in 2010 was they sourced a lot of Canadian rye whiskey. Apparently there's an MGP in Canada, and it's called Alberta Distillers Limited, ALD, and apparently that is the place in Calgary for Canadian whiskeys, and especially Canadian rye whiskeys. So they sourced a bunch of barrels. They've released a handful of different things, and they have started distilling their own stuff too. But they took 12-year-old rye whiskey, and originally they released this in 2015 as 3 separate releases. So they released it as with just the 1 barrel finishing. This now, if you go and buy the 12-year-old, it's a blend of the 3 different types of finishing. So they did a port, they did a French Sauternes, I'm going to guess on that one, and a Madeira. So this is now a blend of those 3, but when they first released it, they released 1 finished in the Madeira, 1 finished in the port. So they did that first. So kind of an interesting concept.
I would assume, kind of like when we did Old Overholt, the rye grain is very predominant in the kind of eastern PA, up to like Vermont, Maine. Yeah. This has got to be the predominant grain in Canada.
Probably.
It just doesn't. Well, I think it.
Yeah, I know
reflects on the well, I think it reflects on the taste because there's not a ton of temperature change up there.
True. Yeah, so the barreling.
But the WhistlePig, I mean, they blend both sides of the here and there.
Yes. But even here, so I know they've done some where they age it in Indiana, in MGA and MGP area. They will age them in Vermont. They will age them in Canada. They're trying. They're playing around. I know we tried the Piggyback, and that was not necessarily our favorite flavor profile. That's what I'm going to say. But this was actually a gift to us. They specifically wanted us to review this on the channel. So thank you, Adam Morgan.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, hopefully.
He should be here joining with us.
He should.
A little guest taster.
That's not bad. I get a little herbal tea, black tea
get
note.
Tea right away.
But there's a touch of a fruit, I gotta assume, from one of those barrels. Port, or, you know.
What's the proof on this?
Port's not high. Well, I'm just guessing like mid-90s, right?
96.
96. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Not getting a lot of ethanol on that.
86. Sorry, 86.
So 43
Yeah,
43 ABV.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel slightly better because I was like, there's no proof on that.
Yeah, I get tea, a little pepper.
I get tea. I'm not getting a lot of pepper on the nose. I'm getting tea, and I'm getting flavored unsweet tea, like flavored with a fruit of some sort. Not necessarily raspberry, but some kind of like a fruit flavor.
Just a very small sip. It is very fruity.
It is. That is fruit tea. Ooh, with that. Ooh, there's a sugary.
I wasn't expecting that.
Me either.
I was expecting the nose was fruity, but I was expecting the palate to
and the
just
pepper and
the spice to hit you. No,
No.
I'm gonna take a bigger one and see what changes. But that small sip, like it was just.
There's a lot of fruit and tea, herbal notes. Not sure why herbal became like 7 syllables, but whatever. But yeah, I get a lot more of the fruit there. The palate's way more fruit. That's a lot of fruit. There's a lot of.
You get that heat, the heat from the pepper, right in the beginning, right when it goes. But after that, it just goes.
Yeah. It sweetens up and gets fruity. And there's no long. There's not a burn at the back of any pepper, spice notes or anything like that. It's very mellow.
Yep.
All right. Well.
Kind of changed my opinion on WhistlePig.
Yeah, I agree. That is pretty impressive. That's actually very impressive the way that they blended those together to get to that point. Good on you.
Kudos to Pickerel.
Pickerel figured some stuff out. So the other fun part, so Pickerel was the master distiller. So and they do distill their own stuff, but this one is sourced Canadian ryes. They are currently making their own juice, which they will blend with other ones or whatever. Like they're playing around. They're trying to figure out some stuff and play around. It's funny. It says 12-year, okay, but in reading, I think it's 12-year normal barreling, and then they go in and start messing around with the other barrelings. And the way they came up with their final blend, which is the 63% Madeira, 30% the French Sauternes, I'm not sure I'm saying that right, and 7% port. Came up with that blend with Dave Pickerel and their master blender, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. They actually surveyed bartenders.
Yes.
They reached out, they crowdsourced their blend, in theory. Thought that was just like, oh, okay, they are really trying to figure out what
People like.
people want and like and would use as.
Because if they interviewed us, we were like,
Yeah.
But you get the masses, you get a better idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that.
That's not bad.
No,
I'm getting a little bit more spice now. But there's still a lot of that tea note, fruit tea with a little bit of the rye spice is blended in there. It's not bad. Overall, it's not bad. So I did look into like some of the history of the distillery and that Raj Bhakta, who started the distillery. While he was on vacation in Europe, 2 of the other board members from the company kicked him out as CEO. And like all this other, like there's this weird legal thing going on between him as the CEO, them as like board members and partial, like they're also investors and shareholders and things like that. So there's like this big weird thing. I was looking on the Burlington Times in Vermont. I was sitting there reading their whole article write-up about, he just ignored it. Went right as soon as he came back from vacation.
Back to work.
Just went back to work. Is still running it like the CEO and letting lawyers figure out whatever the hell's going on. But they accused him of like all this weird like wrongdoing stuff, but none of it. He got a DUI, and they're like, that's a criminal offense, and that's part of your contract as the CEO. He's like, whoa, hold on, like, no, it actually says something about like negligence or criminal activities. Criminal
technicalities.
Like they're stretching there, but how weird is that? Like you know, dude's just trying to make some whiskey, and the board's trying to like kick him out. It's different. It's not something I've heard as a history to any other whiskey company.
Kudos for him for keep rolling forward.
Just rolled forward. I'll let someone else figure it out.
I have to say, WhistlePig is not
generally our profile.
It's not our profile. It's not tops on my list. I have to say, this is probably the best I've had.
Yeah, I agree, but you're going to pay for it. This is not a cheap bottle, which I think is a lot of that's part of the big issues I have with WhistlePig is, you know, so the cheapest one is the Piggyback. I did not like that at all. Mm-hmm. This bottle, I'm going to say the MSRP is around $100. I can't find it for that anywhere. So most of the time I see like 110, 125. Mm-hmm. I see 150, like depending on where you're getting it. That's ridiculous.
I think it's a name that's gaining recognition. I think people, as soon as you hear that, you think it wasn't the Boss Hog.
Right. Which is like $500 or $600
MSRP. Yeah. I think people get kind of roped up into that. But it's a brand that's gaining recognition. But if you are definitely a rye drinker.
If you're a rye drinker.
And even more if you lean towards the Canadian ryes. It just kind of leans to that palate.
Yep, it definitely does.
It's solid.
I don't know if I'd spend $125 on that.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I'd get a pour. I'd get a pour at a bar.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
$100.
Thank you.
No, I would say. I mean,
it's a good whiskey. I would not spend $100+ on it. Mm-mm. I'd get it as a taster inside a bar. Like, yeah, I'd go. I'd have no problem with this whiskey whatsoever.
If you got to pick a flight, and this was an option, I think
okay.
I think it's a solid one.
It'd be a very solid rye whiskey.
I'm glad he's playing around. For us that aren't, we enjoy rye, but it's not our preference to pick one.
Yes.
You know, off the shelf or at a restaurant. But it's nice to see that they're playing around.
Yeah, with the finishing, that really mellows out.
But I'm curious to see more if they drop 1 or 2 or 3 bottles that's their own stuff.
Own stuff from Vermont.
Yep. Besides taking stuff from Canada and taking stuff from Indiana.
Yeah.
And blending it together. So I'm obviously they know the profile to kind of fit those. So I'm actually curious to see once a bottle or 2 drop that's just theirs. And if it's reasonably priced, I would pick one up just to
see where they're going.
Do it on the show and give our review of it. But this is pretty good.
Value-wise, it's not there for me, but I could see someone who really enjoys a rye. This would be, like me getting a Booker's type thing. You know what I mean? Like I really enjoy a hotter bourbon.
But again, that market up there, it's scotches and ryes.
Yeah, it speaks more to that Northeast.
Yeah, the Northeast. WhistlePig number 2 in the bag.
Yeah, man.
It exceeded my expectations.
That's all you can ask for, right?
Yep. I appreciate Adam Morgan letting us bottle kill.
Killer it.
Bottle kill.
Killed it all.
Appreciate you letting us sample it. I appreciate you guys joining.
Absolutely.
Joining this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, we encourage you to hit the like button at the bottom of the screen.
While you're down there, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. You can hit the bell icon, get notified every time we put out a new episode. Let us know, what is your favorite WhistlePig or even broader rye that we'd like to continue down the rye and go keep broadening our palates.
The Canadian ryes.
Sure, I'm down with Canadian ryes or any Canadian whiskey that you might recommend. I mean, we can get broad on all of this, but definitely appreciate the bottle donation from Adam, and really appreciate everybody watching.
See you on the next episode. Thanks
Cheers.
for watching. Cheers.